I love them. I think they're beautiful animals, and I've had some beautiful experiences with them and a couple of bad ones. At New Haven last year I got kicked in the rump by one when I was trying to feed it, and it's still sore. But they're very affectionate animals, they're very intelligent animals, and I've had a lot of satisfaction from seeing friends of mine, particularly the young women who develop an emotional attachment to the camels and treat them as people, and I think that's really lovely to see.
What about the damage side of things, apart from the damage to your ribs? You know, what have you seen camels do?
I've seen them run through fences and take the fence with them. I've seen the damage that they do to some of the native trees, quandongs in particular. I believe they love quandongs. And I've seen what they can do to trample water holes in remote places, and the damage that they can do trying to get to water in remote places. And I've heard anecdotal things about camels attacking people in rural areas, in particular around the New Haven area and Nirrupee, and the damage that they can do to people. But on the other hand, I've seen probably more damage done in communities by feral donkeys. There was one Canteen Creek, when I was at Canteen Creek outstation there a couple of years ago, when the donkeys just ran riot through the town. And I don't think that you can draw a distinction between the environmental damage that the camels do and the environmental damage that the donkeys and horses do.
Trevor, do you think that part of the reason that camels are attracting the level of attention they are is because people realise what good survivors they are, and the more we see the saga of camels in the desert unfolding, we're seeing just how well they survive and come back after bad seasons?
No, I don't think that's got a lot to do with it. I've spoken to people in the eastern states who had no idea we had 1 million feral camels in this country, and I don't think they cared. But when you put up the proposition that 400 kangaroos on the greens of Canberra are causing a bit of a problem and they cull them, you have a public outcry. And it's been the same with the brumbies in the national parks in the Kosciuszko. And it seems to me that it's out of sight, out of mind for the camels. And until recently, I don't think they've ever been seen as a problem, and I don't think they are still seen as a problem in the eastern states.
Well, I think it's quite possible, though, that when the people in the eastern states discover what is planned for camels, that they might be attracting some attention.
I'm sure there'll be an outcry if they know that all those camels, and as I understand it, they're looking to eliminate about 800,000 camels. Now, that's going to create an enormous outcry once it gets known. But the money that's just been given to the Desert Knowledge people, $19 million, by the time they take expenses out of that, Treasury, etc., you can expect to lose about 30% of that. So they'll probably finish up with $13 million effective. And at the costs that were first put up by the German people who worked at New Haven in 1983, at about $60 per head to shoot them, that equates to about 250,000 camels. So where they're going to get the money to shoot the rest of them with, I don't know.
So do you think in some ways that possibly the whole approach is tokenistic?
I think so. Yes, I think it's tokenistic.
So what's your solution?
Well, I think the only realistic way to do it is to commercialise them. There are two ways, I think, to do that. And I've pondered the question lately as to what would have been the outcome, or what would be the outcome, if that $13 million effective had been given to an organisation like, say, the Cattlemen's Association, with the brief to say, it's a commercial loan to you people, make a commercial operation out of it and produce a commercial product. And the way to do that, as I see it, is through the Islamic countries, because there is a demand for, I think about 16% of the world's supply of food now is supplied to Islamic countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, where they're paying up to $400 a kilogram for good quality meat. And what I think ought to happen is that some of that money that goes to Desert Knowledge ought to be put into a specific camel research organisation here, preferably based south of the airport, where the camels that are considered commercial for breeding rather than slaughter should be bred into a national commercial herd, upgrade the product that comes from that herd, distribute it to people who want to farm them, and then sell it, make it into a product that the Islamic countries want and need, and tailor it specifically to their needs. And that would probably account for 100,000 a year, just off the top of my head.
What about the ones that would have to be slaughtered?
Well, the ones that would have to be slaughtered, I think, really that's where DFAT comes in, and the commercial organisations that have got money to spare should look at it from the point of view of social responsibility and say, we can make a significant contribution to the world's or to Australia's aid programs by slaughtering those camels, making them into a dehydrated form of protein, storing them here, and have them ready for distribution by Care Australia, International Red Cross, Oxfam and all of those other organisations for immediate distribution in the world to disaster areas.
Why would it be such a terrible thing if these camels were shot, if we're talking about the ones that can't be domesticated, can't be turned into some sort of harvest?
Well, I have trouble living with myself if I think that there are 14 million starving people in this world, and we're allowing 200 to 300,000 tonnes of raw protein to rot in the desert. To me, that's an unpalatable option, and I'll do whatever I can to bring public attention to that in the hope that we can equate the two.
Do you think it might have environmental consequences?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, even on the radio this morning they were talking about dog baiting programs in the top end, because the dog population has risen to such an extent that it's endangering calving percentages, which may make some properties unviable. Now, if we put all these camels on the ground in the desert and the dog population builds up, when that food source has gone and the dog population remains, undoubtedly they'll turn to other sources, which will probably be native animals.